I'm Terry Nunn.
I'm David Diamond.
I'm John Crawford. We are Berlin, and you are watching Eclectic Arts. Lucky for you.
What a lovely introduction. You're so nice.
That human connection should not ever be taken for granted, and that it can be taken away.
Right amount of weird where I'm like, I want it. I want it.
Obviously, it's a thing. It's like an ABBA trait.
How are there only 4 episodes of this?
Being very intentional with my art, with like the visual and the emotion behind it.
You just need sitting and
crying.
Yeah, sitting and crying. Oh, how we do.
Alice, thank you again for connecting us.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
That doesn't necessarily mean that even that last step won't get drawn out for years.
You think you're seeing something, but you're actually seeing something else.
And you're watching
Eclectic Arts.
Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Monday, the 14th of November, 2022. And a few housekeeping details as always. This is live stream number 299 since I started on May 22nd, 2020. So we're one away from hitting 300, which is really crazy for me to think about, considering that back then I wasn't even sure I wanted to do this kind of virtual work. And luckily, the wonderful band Alice in Los Angeles decided to take a chance on me and open up their virtual tour. And here I am, almost 300 live stream interviews later. And so I really owe them a great debt of gratitude. And for everybody else that's been supporting what I do and watching everything that I do, I'm very much not a one-trick pony, as most people know, from covering music and the ballet and opera and film and TV and theater and just kind of everything that I find interesting. So hopefully it's kind of that same circus mentality. If you don't like, the 10 clowns crammed into a pinto, then maybe you'll like the trapeze artist. If you don't like that, maybe you'll kind of, you kind of get the idea of how Eclectic Arts works. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell. And also if you're on the Twitch side of things, this is where I started all the virtual work, was on Twitch. If you could follow me over there, I'd greatly appreciate that. And so speaking of which, number 300 is scheduled for this Friday. So knock on wood, as long as everything goes according to the schedule. I am really excited to welcome back from one of my favorite TV shows, Yellowstone. They just had their premiere of season 5 last night. And I'm welcoming back cast member Mo Brings Plenty, who plays the character of Mo on the show. And so Mo is scheduled to join me this Friday, the 18th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And Mo has been, one of the most interesting and just not just about the TV show, but just as a person, about the Native American culture, everything else that he brings to the table. I always come away from those interviews a richer person, and I've always been definitely educated by him. And he's just a great person to have on. So again, that's going to be this Friday. And for those people, I know I've got some fans that like to watch or have an interest in horror movies. And the little horror movie that could last month, Terrifier 2, which scared up over $10 million off of $250,000 budget, partially crowdfunded, so it's completely independent in that sense. I have one of the cast members just confirmed today that will be joining me right after the Thanksgiving weekend on the 28th, so a couple of weeks from today on that Monday at 6 p.m. And so if you'd like to know more details about what's coming up, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first. And then some of the information migrates over to other social media platforms. I can tell you that some of the platforms that I don't really use too much, and I've actually deleted the apps off of my phone just for personal reasons. But Instagram, I always will be on as a presence. I do have a Facebook page and a couple other things, and obviously my YouTube channel, my Twitch channel. So yeah. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to do a live stream, and I'm really excited anytime I get to talk to, well, really people that have tremendous talent like my guests do tonight. So let's get started. My guest today is a talented music duo based in Los Angeles. Their most recent music video has garnered over 1 million views on YouTube, and we just saw a little snippet of it right after my intro video. They also just finished an extensive fall tour playing to audiences. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media virtual studio, Dauzat St. Marie.
Howdy.
Hey, everybody.
And you nailed the pronunciation.
Hi, how are both? Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
Doesn't always go down that easy.
I'm already winning.
You got it.
Cool. So, Matt and Heather, how are both of you?
We're great.
Great. We're kind of
okay.
Still getting over the tour, the tour fog. Whenever you get out into the tour this long, I think we were out like basically 9 weeks. You get into like this little bit of a zombie mode.
Yeah.
So we're kind of coming down off of that tour fog thing, but we're doing good. This was the best headlining tour to date for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so for people like myself that are new to your music, and other people that are watching this now or down the road that are new to it, do you normally do this amount of shows pre-pandemic? Were you guys on the road all the time, or was it because of the pandemic you said we're going to hit as many shows as we can to make up for lost ground?
No, we go way back, and we've always been road warriors. We love going out on, because if a tour is like about 6 weeks, you're just getting into the swing of things, and then it's over. I prefer to get out there and just go really long. This is not the longest we've done, but this is about the right amount of time. 9 weeks, it's time to come home and kind of get back to reality and then go back out again.
We did nine months straight 1 year.
And that was surreal.
We came home for 2 days. We flew home, shot a music video, and flew right back out and continued to tour. So nine months straight.
That year.
That's long.
Wow. Yes. We're having some connection issues here for a second.
A little delay.
Okay. Well, that's a long time to be out on the road. Yeah, looks like a little bit of a delay there. I think we're back.
Yeah.
Right. So was that a case then that you kind of learned like that's too many months, like don't go that long on the road again?
We kind of had to. I mean, when you're just starting out, that's when you're paying your dues. You're playing to probably nobody, and maybe the sketchy promoter might not pay you that night. You don't know where you're sleeping,
Yeah, we started to pay all our dues in one shot, right?
We saw the growth, and we just said, let's just keep doing the loop. And people kept asking for us to come back. So we were like, let's just do it. And by the time it ended, we were able to come back and build upon that really solid foundation.
Okay, so that actually brings up a question with the tour dates that I saw for this most recent tour that you just did. It looks like there's certain areas of the U.S. that you definitely have hit. And I know I think you're originally from Louisiana, so it kind of makes sense that maybe there's already like a foundational base there. Some other cities in the U.S. Is that kind of what you're speaking to? Like, once you kind of did that loop, you kind of figured out, oh, they want us to come back to these cities.
Yeah, we definitely have home bases. Like you said, Louisiana, Michigan's really big for us, the Carolinas and Florida. But what was interesting this tour is that, we saw a lot of old friends and stuff, but we got a lot of new faces, which excites me. Because that's the hardest part, right? I mean, you want to grow, you want to get to the new people. How do you reach them? And so we did festivals and shows, and I think people were finally really ready to get back out into the world, and they were excited about music, and so that keeps us excited as well.
Yeah, I think all the festivals we played, they all cited record turnouts this year, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you're as a musical artist, or really an artist of any type, you're trying to increase your fan base. And how do we get these people that maybe don't know about us, or maybe saw a video on YouTube and they said, oh, they're coming to my town, I'll go check them out, and they get blown away by your live performance and then become like locked in as fans. I know that's how it kind of works for me.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Outreach is a challenge for sure. We're headlining at least, the growth is a little bit slower than obviously like when we tour with like you know, Rick Springfield or Pat Benatar, then you're playing to much larger audiences. But you know, on this is mostly headlining, so the growth is just a little bit of a slow climb, but we're okay with that. You know, it's the strongest connections that you're going to make with fans, and they stick around. You know, they have that personal connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for myself, speaking as a fan, that when I've seen some bands that came to town, and sometimes it could have been maybe I'm there for like the special guest or the headliner, and then the first band that opened that was on the tour that wasn't local, I didn't know who they were, but I'm like, man, they're really good. And then they're over at the merch table and I want to go talk to them. And then they're really cool. So then, yeah, you're a fan for life just because of that connection of what happened there at the venue.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Strong and lasting connection for sure. And that's kind of how we've built this over the years of doing this. That's how we've built what we have now. We have a solid base where we can go out and tour for months at a time, and it, you know, makes sense to do so.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I, again, like I was telling you pre-show, I love it when musical artists are getting out there on the road and, you know, at least initially paying their dues and planting those seeds. And then they come back again to the city, and they come back again, and you kind of get a few more people and a few more people and a few more people. Yeah. And then you know that foundation will work. It wasn't some kind of like kind of thing that gave you your 15 minutes of fame and then it disappeared on you. It's like, no, it's there, and it's kind of goes like this, and that's the best kind.
Yeah, and then they kind of help spread the word. Like word of mouth is still the best of all, and so, you know, they'll bring their friends to the shows, and it builds that way organically. So that's, you know, that's our favorite way of doing it. It's not the fastest way. Probably if we were smart, we'd be, you know, TikToking all the time, but we're old school. You know, we just want to get and be with the fans out there. The connections through the phone, the app, don't, you know, it's not the same.
Yeah, and that actually brings up a good point that are you finding that is social media kind of a help, or is it kind of a hurt, or is it kind of annoying, or a little bit of both, or all three?
All of the above.
It's a necessary.
Yeah.
It's definitely necessary. I mean, that's how we get the word out that we're coming to your town, at least, right? So we're using it that way. We're not using it to its maximum benefit. We don't have time. You know, every tour when we go out, we're like, you know, this time we're gonna do more video, and we're gonna do more on social media, and that's all well and good. You do it for the first week, and then you're just tired. Like you don't, and you're not. You want to live, you know, in the moment and not through a lens.
Right.
And so it gets difficult. We even buy like new gear, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing, and no, we don't, unfortunately.
Okay, well, you know, and that makes sense that I'm not a touring musician by any means, but just in terms of even what I do with my own media stuff, it's like, well, I know I need to promote something or something else is coming up. Just like what I talked about in my introduction, I got something on Friday, I got something, whatever, and I have to do it. It's a necessary evil. But then am I doing anything like fun or anything that's like I see other people doing, especially like if you're talking about TikTok or the other things, I'm not doing any of that stuff. It's just like there's only so much time in the day.
That's the deal.
And I don't. Yeah, and maybe this is hurting me, but I choose to maybe not spend time there because I'd rather spend it on doing a better interview or a better review or being better research for something or going to more shows in person. That's where I'd rather spend my time than on that. So it's kind of, and there's a balance, obviously, but some people are whizzes. I mean, some of the stuff you see on social media, it's like,
absolutely.
Wow, that's crazy how they make that stuff, but it's not me.
And you could build the whole careers and fan bases right there. That you have all the tools, you know, right there at your disposal. But it's just like on tour, and we're totally DIY, so we have to do everything, and there's just only so many hours, and that, you know, the social media falls pretty far down on the totem pole. I mean, it's pretty high up on the totem pole as far as promoting the shows that we have to do, you know, to make sure that we bring people to the show. So we do that, and that's fine. It's just like all the additional stuff on social media. We don't, you know, we're not going live from the green room and playing a song or whatever. We just, because, you know, I'm probably having to sort out like some strings or changing strings, or I'm having to get whatever it is. Like we just don't have time. I think what's going to happen for us, what we're planning on is we're going to have to bring somebody on board to do that stuff. Now that would be more interesting. Like it would be more interesting for the fans seeing me have to, you know, track down some CDs that we ordered and they didn't make it here. So now I got to reroute them over to the next date.
Yeah.
That stuff actually would be really cool. But we need somebody to do it. Like we can't film that stuff ourselves because we're so in it, you know?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And as I mentioned, when I started doing all these virtual interviews, I was with the wonderful band Alice, and they're DIY like you guys. And I mean, from, you know, mixing, mastering, getting their CDs made. I mean, just everything that they do, booking their shows, all of that stuff, they do it themselves. And there's, well, now 6 members in that band. And it still becomes like, well, who's going to do this today? Who's going to take their phone and go film something? And they're kind of like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's kind of like, we'd rather just kind of, we're on tour. Let's just kind of enjoy being on tour. And then that's part, like you said, if there's somebody like a 7th person in their case on the outside, they could be touring with them to kind of film all that stuff while it's happening. That would be perfect. But it's so hard to do that. Like you said, Matt, when you're in it, it's like, I'm trying to take care of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what we always say. Like, you know, we come from the band touring environment. We had a band for many years, and so, you know, Dauzat St. is easier because it's only 2 people, but it's also more difficult because it's only 2 people, and that's a good example of why. If we had another member, well, that person then could be dedicated to maybe filming or whatever it is. But, you know, we just don't, like, one of us has to drive, you know, one of us is the tour manager, one of us promotes the shows.
Yeah.
So it's just no time, but we'll grow. We're just trying to set that foundation and get to where we can, you know, financially, you know, be able to afford to bring someone else out that might be able to do a few tasks on the road. You know, getting a driver alone would be huge for us because, again, one of us is behind that steering wheel. So whoever's behind the steering wheel is completely unproductive on all other fronts. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, and that's something I think for most fans are starting to learn, probably because of YouTube and social media, that they're getting a chance to see some of their favorite artists and understand like the rigors of the road and, you know, the behind the scenes part. Like, so if you're a band of 5 people and you're in a 15-passenger van and, you know, someone's taking turns, okay, I'm doing the first 300 miles, and then you're switching out, someone else has got that, and you're maybe even sleeping in the van because you can't get to a motel, or maybe the payout was kind of low that night, and all these other kind of things that happens. Like, you know, you play, or you're on the road because of that time you're on the stage and when you meet the fans. You know, the rest of it's kind of like just you have to do trying to get to the next place you're trying to get to. And even
we always said, like, don't try to break down the hour, you know, what you make per hour on the tour, because that won't work out, because, you know, you're driving sometimes 8 hours to play a 30-minute show, you know. So if you know, include all those hours for your pay, it's probably not great. But you know, we love it. We're fortunate we've been doing it for so long. We can actually we can do it and make financial sense. You know, still obviously trying to grow from here, but we're in a good spot where we are now with just the 2. It works. Once you start adding any other personnel, it can throw dynamics off immediately.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's just nature of being, you know, in a vehicle and in hotel rooms with people 24/7, you know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think anyone out there that, even just any kind of job that you work just to make a living, that you might have a really good team of people that you like to work with and you get good personalities and hard workers, and then one person leaves and somebody else takes their place, and you're kind of like, and maybe there's the personality's not clicking, or maybe they're kind of on the slower side, or whatever we want to call it, and it's just like, man, I just threw everything off. It's like, we were so good for a while, why'd that person leave? And it's like, so yeah, you know, that was talk about,
like, we click in a way where we don't have to talk about anything. It's just, we already know what to do. Like, when we get to a club, there's always like a series of, I don't want to say problems, but little things to address, right? We already know which way we go, and all of a sudden we're addressing every little thing. We don't have to discuss it. Hey, you do this, you do this. You know, we're super streamlined in that way. We've been doing it since we were kids, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really nice, because like you said, you guys go way back, many years, and so, like, how old were you when you guys actually met each other?
Either 17 and 18 or 18 and 19.
Something like that. I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we started pretty soon after we formed the band. Well, we started just playing like acoustic shows in our hometown, my hometown. She came up for college. We started playing acoustic shows in like coffee shops and stuff like that while we are trying to get a band. But I think as soon as we got a band, somehow we just kind of started touring.
Yeah.
We
both have the kind of personality where it's just like all the way. Let's just do this.
Go. Yeah. So we started touring regionally, and it grew outward, and then we would just come out to Hollywood to play shows, every few months or so, just to do it. And that's kind of how we started to build a network here. And so that helped greatly when we decided to move here. We kind of already had people, and it was a little more comfortable, I guess, moving 2,000 miles away when you knew some folks.
Yeah, I think anyone out there would agree. Like, even if you're just going someplace to vacation, if you actually know somebody who's there, it's a huge plus.
Sure.
I mean, they're gonna know all the non-touristy things and all the little kind of things that you wouldn't necessarily find on your own. And if you're, like in your guys' case, if you're actually moving your life to Los Angeles.
From a small towns. I mean, her town was like 2,500 people or something. Small town Louisiana to big city. That's scary proposition,
Yeah, and then being musicians too. I mean, you're not in the most stable line of work.
Yeah.
So but no, that's awesome. So how long have you been based in LA then?
2002. We moved. Yeah. We moved here in 2002. I got I auditioned for Kelly Osbourne. So we moved here on Labor Day weekend, and that Wednesday I auditioned for Kelly Osbourne. Thursday was on the Osbournes payroll. First show was Jay Leno, shipped out to England to do massive shows with Robbie Williams for 3 months. So our move to LA experience is very different than most other people's move to LA experience. It kind of it really kind of blew up pretty fast, and just kind of left her in the dust. He
was like, see ya.
Because she was the goal was to reform the band, and so she started auditioning members and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so she was still busy, but I was over there playing shows and trying to make a name in the industry.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's awesome that worked for you that way. Because clearly for many other people it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a long backstory to it too, but yeah, it has the appearance of blowing up overnight. Anyway.
Okay, so if we kind of fast forward to when you've been when you have been touring, like you mentioned, like with Rick Springfield or some of the other artists you've been on the road with, what's something that, and you're playing to theaters, stadiums, places outdoors that have a certain amount of people, how does your music translate to that size audience versus say like a club?
I mean, I think it really does. I always say we're really good in small listening rooms, and we're really good in very large places. Because we do our harmonies are so tight since we've been singing together for so long. And I mean, those 8 hours we're driving to the next venue, we're singing in the car. I mean, that's just what we do always. And we've worked out, I like to call it like the little vocal acrobatics, where you're showing off, where like all the music drops out and we're just singing a cappella for a moment and then come back in. So I think that's really good in a large venue because people are taken by surprise. All of a sudden everything's really quiet and it's just us, and it grabs, it keeps their attention, and same for a small listening room, because we put so much thought and effort into our lyrics and our songs. It makes for good storytelling. So those kind of shows are fun because we can talk about the journey and the story of us and how this song might have come about. So, I mean, it translates really well.
Okay. And that's interesting. I'm trying to think if I can think of any other artists recently that I've seen where it just cut down to just the two voices harmonizing and the instruments drop out. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. So that
Frightening
would
prospect.
that would make me perk up though if I'm watching the band and I'm hearing a guitar or hearing some other kind of instrumentation, and then that stops and I'm just hearing the voices. At least for me, I'd be like, oh, what's going on here?
We start our shows with a cappella piece.
Yeah.
Just to make that statement. And then, so that was like one worry whenever we did the Rick Springfield and Pat Benatar tour, because that was the first time, because before that, we were always touring with Rick on his stripped shows, so he was just storytelling, solo acoustic storytelling. And this time it was going to be Rick's full band, which is full on like rock.
Yeah.
And then Pat Benatar, obviously full on rock. And so that was a little bit of a worry. It's like, okay, well, it's just going to be two people getting up there with an acoustic guitar, and we just get up there, we do our thing. We start with that a cappella piece. Any rumblings of the crowd goes dead silent, and all eyes are on us. And all of a sudden you see everybody's phones start to come out and they're filming.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, we got them now,
Right.
And so just after just one of those shows, it was like, wow, we can command thousands. You get the attention of thousands that way. And
it helps that I'm really loud.
She's really loud.
And he's always on with me. So we like to do that kind of stuff.
It's unique. You don't really see people, two people walk out there and just start busting out an a cappella piece.
Right.
It's
But I mean,
cool.
I think we learned that early on, like with our rock band when we were still in college. We played this festival in a park, and we had worked out some little part to where I was just kind of singing trippy random notes in order to give him time to switch guitars. And as I'm doing this, I could just see people from the park all coming in. And I'm like, ooh, I like this. I can just like draw them in, come to me. And I think we remembered that. And so, right. And so now it's like, that's kind of how we always start the show. It's just like, I got you now. Cast that net. And
make a bold
bring it in.
statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love the fact that that's what you're doing, that you kind of learn from, previous experience about doing something. Like, look, people are coming to check us out. So keep that in your mind. Like when we do something later, start off with the voices. And
we come from the dirty rock bar scene. So you have to learn how to command that audience. Otherwise the noise level will just drown you out.
Right.
So if you can't figure out a way to just like get that attention right off the bat, you're dead in the water. It's going to be a miserable show for you.
See, this is awesome that you have so much experience that you've been able to build off of, learn from, things that worked, things that didn't work. And now we're up to this point of like, hey, we kind of know what it's going to work for us as musicians, but also work for the audience, regardless of the venue that we're playing.
Yeah. And we get put in some interesting positions sometimes. We've played like, honestly, like we played a metal festival.
Yeah, we did.
And we figured it out and won the crowd over like crazy.
Yeah, I was preparing myself for that scene in what movie is it where they're playing in the cage and people are throwing food at them?
It's Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Oh yeah.
I was preparing myself for that, But it was cool because, after a whole day of metal and screaming, your ears get tired. And so all of a sudden here we are set up and we start playing. And I mean, everyone was like, wait, what is this?
What is melody?
And then like
Vocal
they're
melody.
all coming over yet again. We're pulling them in, Yeah. So I love a challenge. I really do. I mean, and that comes from when we had a rock band, we pull into the club and everybody's doing their thing and I'm setting up the merch, and quite often I'd get, oh, are you the merch girl? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, you must be dating somebody in the band. Yeah. And that would be it. And they'd walk off. And then I'd get up there and throw down. They're like, you didn't tell me you were the lead singer. I'm like, oh, you didn't ask. So I like that kind of thing.
And we also try to always go on tour with people that are just so much better than we think we are, so we can it becomes a competition a little bit, right? And so we go on tour with people that are just great musicians, and that way we have to step up, just to compete. And so we've always kind of done that too.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that you have that fighting spirit. Because I think in any endeavor in life you need it.
Yes.
If you're trying to get somewhere, if it's A to B or A to D or F or whatever, you need to be able to get in there and fight for it, because someone's not going to hand it to you. And even with what I do with my media stuff, I mean, it's taken a long time to get certain things credentialed and certain interviews. It's like, and it's not lost on me either. I'm so grateful for it, but I also know that I worked my butt off for it too. So
makes the achievement even sweeter.
Yeah.
It does, and when you come across great, talented people that are also humble, it's like those are my people. If you got an attitude, I don't have time for you. I just don't. There's too many good people out there.
Yeah.
And so, and including you guys, and it's really great getting a chance. We've been talking for 30 minutes, and we haven't really even talked about like your music and everything coming out. But I love that, and so like with Nothing Left to Lose, and I mentioned that it got over 1 million views. It's only been out for a couple months. What do you attribute that to?
It was, for me, it was a lot about our experience with the music industry. Coming here and realizing behind the scenes of Hollywood, it's not always the glamour and the shine that is, people think it is. And a lot of it is commercial. I mean, it's a business like anything else. And we weren't willing to sacrifice our art and our music and our vision, which is why we're still independent. I mean, we're not against record labels or anything like that, but we didn't get the right kind of a team that we needed. So we decided to just do it ourselves. And so for me, Nothing Left to Lose was that moment when he and I just made the decision, like, we're just going to do this ourselves. And, all bets are off. I'm putting every bit of energy into this, every bit of money, all of it. That's just what I want to do. And I'm just going all in on it. And that's kind of what it is for me. And, when I say strip down, there's no more lies. There's no more hiding behind anything. It's just going to be us doing it.
But probably your question was attributing the 1 million+ views and happened in 3 weeks.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you meant the lyrics.
that is I'm sure almost certain, because we had the drummer for Korn. We were linked up with him because the team that does our music videos, Sebastian Paquet, Allison Roberto, they were working, I think, on one of our videos, and Sebastian has been Korn's videographer for 15 years. I don't know, whatever it is. And so that's the link. And so Ray, Korn's drummer, just kind of fell in love with what we were doing, and he said, if you guys, want a drummer on a track ever, let me know. And I said, of course. So we got this song. I think it's gonna be perfect. Sent it to him. He tracked the drums, and then flew out. We did the music video with Sebastian and Ali, and we have, so it's Ray Luzier from Korn. We have Nick Annis, who plays for Dorothy and Kesha, and then Elliot Larango is Corey Taylor and Billy Howardell's bass player. But he also happened to be the bass player for our band Hydrovibe back in the day, so it's kind of a cool little link there too. And so that's almost certainly, that had to have helped a lot of those views, rapid views.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and no, Heather, I loved hearing the story behind the lyrics too. But yeah, Matt kind of picked up on.
Oh well.
No, both things are important. So
that's right.
And so with the musicians that I've interviewed, especially the younger, newer folks that are coming out, the industry is so different. It's all about, you put out a single, maybe you put out a video, you don't put out an album, you might put out an EP. And so for me, being from the 80s and that type of thing, it's completely the other way around. Like, you may have put out a single, but then the album was coming to push that thing that you got out on tour, and you pushed the album. Where do you guys kind of fall? I mean, do you have a preference, or are you just trying to follow like what, the current thing is?
We don't have a label, so we don't have to do anything. We listen only to the fans and are only accountable to the fans and ourselves. So I don't know that we would. So we actually dropped an album on this tour. We just haven't.
We didn't announce it.
We didn't make a whole thing out of it on social media, because we're going to have a record release. But what we did is we had our record available only to the fans that came to the shows. just to try out this thing to see, like, you know, because we didn't know if we're going to drop an album or not anyway, because, you know, you just usually are just doing singles. Well, we went to radio. We're actually spinning at Americana Folk AC radio now, but I think the Americana Folk stations, at least 150 of them, still require physical CDs. So that was one of the drivers that led us to package an album together. And so we shipped that out. We went to radio on this tour, which was also crazy because, again, it's just the two of us. And so now we have to go get 150 CD mailers. We have to print up these one sheets. Then we had to open 150 CDs because you can't have the wrapper on it. And then we had to fold up the one sheets with the CD, pack the mailers, do all the addresses, then go to we went to a post office thinking that, you know, surely they'll have like a kiosk where we can just kind of feed them through. They don't have that in Jackson, Michigan. So we had one sweet girl at the counter who sat with us for probably about 3 hours that afternoon because she had to take every single one, match the address, weigh it, print out some other stamp, put it on there, and, you know, do that whole thing. So anyway, she's an angel.
Yes.
And so anyway, so that's one of the reasons we have the CDs, and then we're going to do an album release. But going forward, I don't know if there's an advantage to having that. There's an advantage, obviously, for fans that want to buy something at your shows, you know, and have that CD, and everyone comes with an autograph, obviously. And but I mean, when cars they don't have CD players anymore. I don't know. I really don't know what the future is. I mean, you know, we've been trying to do like regular singles, and even that's kind of tedious to stay on a regular schedule. Like every 6 weeks, we end up getting off schedule, and I don't know. It's difficult. We're trying to figure it all out. We don't know what the answer is. I mean, streaming, we don't make a lot of money on streaming at all. I mean, you know, some of those royalty checks are like small, really small. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I think everybody's trying to figure that out right now.
Okay, well, and this kind of begs the question, since you had the album available at your shows on the most recent tour, do you have a shop online where people can buy that now? Or are you waiting till this actual, you know, album release show and push comes?
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to launch a store that's going to have everything. We'll do the album announcement. We're having to work backwards. So we have the physical product, the physical CDs. And we're having to work backwards on the DSPs for like Spotify, because a lot of them were singles that were released and then some unreleased tracks. And so now we have to figure out how to package those up to make those an album on those DSPs. We'll get it figured out.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, well,
I'm sure there's an easy answer to that, but I don't know it.
For someone like myself, I love physical media, and I realize I'm kind of in the minority and that type of thing. And the last gal that I had on, she pressed her CDs up and sent me one, which was very kind of her. We were talking about it during her interview. I said, "Are you going to press anything up?" "Oh, Mark, I have some." I didn't even know that she had. So
I think we'll probably always do limited runs of something. I would have loved to have done vinyl, and we still might do, but just because of the supply chain problems, it's like a 9-month backlog wait, you know. It's like we didn't have time. I mean, we booked the tour what we thought was pretty far out, and that was still only 4 months or something. So
yeah, no, there's all kinds of issues with people wanting, like you're saying, it could be 9 months, sometimes even close to a year, depending on what kind of vinyl you're trying to get pressed up. And as you know, from just having been on tour, certain tours were getting postponed because they didn't have tour buses available or bandwagons or just anything. I know there's a local band here that was like begging and pleading to find a 15-passenger van or a Sprinter, something so they could do their tour. And luckily somebody came through at the last minute down in Portland that had something for them. And even that thing is, it's like crossing your fingers and hoping that it actually doesn't, have issues and break down and all that. I've read about other bands that did have issues on the road and there was no replacement bus. So they're just kind of stuck. They didn't know what they were going to do.
It's so bad. Yeah, there's all kinds of problems, and the gas prices are just crushing people.
Yep.
I don't know how a lot of the independent bands are able to survive this. Our band was out the last time the gas prices went up really high. I can't remember what year that was now, but I mean, it definitely sent us back to where we were not able to do tours as frequently as we used to, and that's actually what caused Heather and I to launch Dauzat St. Is because the band touring was slowing, and we're just like, we got to tour. I mean, we're a live act. So, hey, we got all these songs that weren't appropriate for our rock band. Let's work these out and package up a CD and let's launch a tour. And so we did that. And almost immediately is when we got picked up to Rick picked us up. We played one of his shows. He's like, guys, I love what y'all are doing. Feel free to open any of my solo acoustic shows. And I was like, how about all of them? He's like, okay. And so that's how that happened. We did one tour as Dauzat St. Marie, and then all of a sudden got picked up by Rick, and then all of a sudden we're just jetting out with him, often to go play. He likes to fly out like on a Thursday, and then we'll play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, fly home. But anyway, so that was a result of those gas prices. So I'm now thinking, how are these smaller independent bands able to afford this? It's got to be crushing.
Yeah, and I know that there was one band that I'd seen maybe 3 times here in Seattle that's from some other part of the U.S., and their tour was getting close to ending in Vegas, and then some of the members got COVID, and so they had to miss some shows. And so at the end of the tour, well, I guess we're going to be driving X amount of states back home, and because the gas at that time was like over $5 a gallon, they were losing money.
Absolutely,
day after day, just trying to get back home. And so like we've been waiting to get back on the road after the pandemic, and we finally get out there, and then we're still not quite out of the woods yet in terms of those type of risks. And it hit them financially. I don't think they've been back on the road since. I think they're trying to recoup and figure things out.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that was another concern too. Like, for example, if there was some big opportunity for us to go out, you end up making a lot of investments. You get, investing in merchandise, for example. You get all this merch and CDs because you're anticipating big sales, and you go out and all of a sudden one of us gets COVID. That's a problem, So there's a lot of risks, but fortunately, like I said, I mean, we're kind of in a spot where we can take those risks because we've been doing this for so long, and we're going to be okay. But like, it's just those smaller independent bands. I have no idea how they're going to be able to survive that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I guess we won't know until we kind of move forward into next year and kind of see where things go. And are these things going to kind of like level out a bit so that bands can maybe be out there with a little bit more risk, or are they going to have to kind of stay near to their hometowns for a while and not do a full blown tour? Or if they're on the West Coast, just do a West Coast thing and not actually go to the Midwest and the East Coast or down South?
Yeah,
don't know.
And the big artists too. I mean, Lord just published that explanation on the difficulties on for bigger touring acts, and she actually did a really good job of explaining it in layman's terms. It's tough. It's tough top to bottom. I mean, we're so lean and mean. It's just 2 of us. We're okay. That doesn't affect us too badly. We tour in a hybrid SUV, and so we kind of took gas out of the equation a little bit. So we're fortunate we can do that, but other acts, I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah, just hope that for everybody watching, it's another reason, when the band comes to your town, go see them.
You got to support.
Buy something at the merch table. Do what you can. I know, like out here, and I don't know if you guys are experiencing this too, that some of the clubs are taking percentages of the merch sales just because it goes back to the arena days when you actually hire someone who knew what they were doing, who would sell your merch for you because there's 10,000 people there. So you understand where they're getting percentage, but then that's they're carrying over to these small clubs where like, they're not providing any person. There's no table. There's nothing. They're just taking it right off the top, like 20% off your merch sales. And so,
so if an act, I would say this, if you're an independent artist and that venue tries to take a percentage of your merch sales, you ask for a percentage of that bar.
Yep.
Immediately, because that's not cool. I mean, that's how these bands are able to survive. We haven't come across that. I mean, only on like, House of Blues shows or whatever bigger shows, they'll make you count in and out and take a percentage, whatever. I think a lot of times, maybe because you're competing with their own merch sales, right? If they have shirts and whatever.
And we've been to a few of them where it's like, okay, I owe you $27, and they're like, you know what? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And we've been to others where it's like, yeah, you owe me that plus 32 cents or whatever. You know?
But if a smaller club were to ask for a percentage of merch sales, you just ask for a percentage of that bar. That's that's only fair.
Yeah, that's the smart thing. And so
because you're bringing people that are drinking.
Right.
Absolutely. And when I've been doing these, especially during the heart of the pandemic, when I was doing these virtual interviews, and then when the bands actually came to Seattle, and I got to meet them in person, that type of thing, most of the time I'd be blowing them aside and saying, are they taking a percentage of your merch? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, if they're not taking a percentage, great. I mean, that's the way it should be. But if they are, then I'm tipping you under the table. I'm not going to have it go into your little cash thing here. And they're like, oh, I didn't understand that, because the other places, people were doing the same thing. They're starting to tip them so that it doesn't get somehow potentially cut off the top of their profits, which is really sad that it has to happen that way. But fans are getting wise to this.
Okay, like, hey, I haven't seen it. We've not seen it or experienced it. I'm hoping that's just a fluke. I haven't heard about it.
I hope so too. I hope it just goes away, those last few people, because most of the clubs around here don't do it, but there's at least 2 that I can think of that do.
Wow.
Yeah.
What size clubs?
That hold like about maybe 400, 500.
Okay.
So, and again, they're not doing a darn thing for the artist at all. Again, I understand if you had somebody like, both of you have to be on stage, so you have somebody who's actually selling the stuff back there for you and protecting it and doing everything else. It's a little different, but they're not doing anything. They're just collecting some money. So I love the response of, well, then let's get a percentage of the bar then before we close up tonight.
That's only fair.
Yeah.
It's either or.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, as we were just talking about for the last 10 minutes, I mean, it's so hard for musicians as it is. Yeah. You don't need that on top of it. And when I first heard about that, I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? And then I saw it actually happen. It's like, oh man, this sucks. The promoters need to book you. Yeah, need to book you in a different venue.
Yeah.
But to kind of wrap this up, so what do we have coming up now that you said you're off the road, you're kind of getting out of that fog and haze? What's coming up in the next few weeks, few months to finish out the year and go into the new year?
We're doing mostly like random one-off dates. Santa Barbara, we just did. We're going back to Santa Barbara to do some more. I'm not sure where all we're playing, but you'll see some one-off dates pop up, and then we'll be back in recording, just trying to get ahead of the curve for future releases. And then we're filming another music video, and we'll be back on the road already at the end of January. So it's not a lot of time off. Yeah. So we're like end of January, probably to the end of March is already being booked.
Okay. And does that include the Northwest at all, or?
It doesn't.
Okay.
And we because we have a lot of fans that make that comment often. We have fans up there, and you guys got to come up here, but it's connecting the dots to get there is the challenge. But we'll do it. We're going to make it happen. It's just I think it's not that you get comfortable, but we have our spots and routes, as you've seen. And so we end up kind of hitting those with frequency and not going too terribly far out of that region. But we've completely ignored, upper West Coast, and there's no reason for it. We just need to do it. So we may hit you up about venues that don't charge, percentage,
right?
And we'll just come up there and do it.
Yeah, no, please do. And I think it would be great. And you have a really good point, because a lot of the touring bands usually will stop at San Francisco because they got to make that thing monetarily work. So do they play Eugene, then Portland, then Seattle, and then maybe go up to Vancouver, BC, and then come back down? And if they do come back down, where do they go next? Do they go to Idaho or Montana or Utah? Or
that's where it's weird, right? Geographically set up weird. If you hit all the spots going up, you got nothing coming down.
Yep, exactly.
So, that's okay. we would enjoy doing it. We just got to do it.
Yeah.
We'll have to plan that out.
Okay, cool. Well, Matt and Heather, it's so awesome getting a chance to talk with you about all kinds of things tonight.
Likewise.
Yeah, and I love what you guys are doing. And yeah, if you feel like sometime in the new year that you're going to try to figure out a way to come up here, definitely hit me up. I would love to do whatever I can to help you out, or just definitely be at the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and anytime you have anything that you'd like to promote or come on, I love having guests come back on. I've said this to every guest I've had. So, and my YouTube channel is kind of a testament to it. You can kind of see guests have definitely come back on. Sometimes when they don't even have anything to promote, they just say, it's been like a year. What are you doing? So we just kind of get back together and kind of catch up and let everybody know. So it's absolutely awesome getting a chance to talk with both of you. And I wish you every success with everything that you're doing.
Likewise.
Thank you. And you too, definitely.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
doing
so
great
much.
work for the artist community.
I appreciate it. And have a great, what is it, Monday night?
It is.
It feels so weird. I swear it feels like a Thursday or something to me. And it's like, oh no, it's only Monday. But
it's been a long week already.
It's Tuesday Eve.
There we go. Have a great night. Stay safe down there, and hopefully talk to you soon.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay. Bye. Bye, everybody.